Not so long ago, I sold Apple out of my Jubak's Picks portfolio. And that was basically a kind of seasonal thing. It was Apple had run up really strongly. The fourth quarter, the December quarter, Apple's on a slightly different side of service. Let's say the December quarter is always the strongest quarter for Apple as it is for most technology companies. So you had an all-time high on the stock. Fourth quarter, December quarter over, and moving into a weaker period of the year, I thought it was time to take some profits. And the stock indeed has moved back a little. We're not talking about huge. We're going, 132 back down to 128, something like that. I think we're now looking at a little bit further to fall because there's some bad news developing about Apple Pay. And it turns out that Apple and the banks that were so anxious to get onto the Apple platform really blew it when it came to fraud prevention. Typically, credit cards have a fraud rate, minuscule. It's less than 1%. 0.1% in fact. What the banks and Apple are seeing with Apple Pay is fraud of about 6%. Huge. And that's because there are real problems about the way that people what they're asked to do to get onto the system. That Apple and the banks, in their efforts to make this really, really simple, aren't asking for a whole lot of verification, much less than normal, and therefore they're getting a lot of fraud because people have discovered it's pretty easy. So that's negative news. I think it's going to make Apple Pay seem tarnished for a while, and that will take something out of the stock. It's a problem that's pretty easily fixable with a couple of software reboots. The banking industry has a larger problem, which is that it's really not very good at a lot of basic credit card protection and coding. So that needs to be worked on, but that's not Apple's problem. If you look at this and go, okay, so where do I want to get back in on Apple? I suggested that you might want to wait until June, July. I think this news coming out in March suggests that that's still about the right timetable, but that you might actually get a bigger dip than I expected in Apple, leading to a rebuy. This is Jim Jubak for Jubak Asset Management.